we brought the kids over here to the pool, and I had to straighten that out. How much is this?
16.
Okay. Who wants to? I think it's recording now.
I think you should start.
I should start.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's go ahead, and I will start with Brittany because that's the first one on my screen. Brittany, where it says synthesis of course, readings, resources, and suggested sources, and narrative. I put gave you a level 4. It says clearly all 5 targets are addressed. For the next one, rubric requirements, I put that you successfully unpacked the rubric, and you could clearly see the description of data collection, identifying the gaps. You can see that. You cited with best practices, and then you did a analysis of the gap. So that was pretty good. I gave you a 4 under quality, where it says the narrative clearly describes the clinical experience in a manner that easily is aligned with the requirements. Under grammatics, I put there's very, very minor. I gave you a 4. It's not enough to take any points off to me, but it says it's very minor. Building for under the section that says building efficacy and empowerment among staff was highly supported. It should be supported, and I kind of put that sentence on there so you can see where to go back and find that. Under organization, APA format was right, but then again on the references. You still didn't put the hanging indents under APA, and I thought it was my screen again, but I blew it up, and you still didn't indent that second line.
And I seen that when I was like, I don't even know what he's talking about, so I had to go to your references to see, like, what am I doing wrong? But I got it now. So
that hanging indent. So it says, Brittany, this all looks good, minor errors. You still did not use the hanging indents on the reference page. Hang on, something just popped up. On the reference page, but since you only had 2 sources, and the second source wasn't long enough to go to the second line, so it didn't matter. But you're still proficient. So that's your review for me or from me. So now, Jerica.
Why everybody laughing? What's this giggling about?
I'm laughing.
What's this giggling about? I feel some kind of way. I will say I was the first one to turn this assignment. So, whatever.
That's my classmates. I'm in a class. I was talking to my uncle. So now, Jerica, I gave you a 3 under synthesis of course. I put that identifying the gaps. I thought it was a little shaky with you identifying the gaps between the actual practices and the best practices that you researched. I could tell the part where you clearly talked about the Marzano, teaching style. When you talked about that, that was fine, but you kind of really elaborated only on that one and maybe another one. So I said that I highlighted where it says the gaps in these 5 areas should be addressed. That's what makes it efficient. I didn't feel like you addressed 5. I said I see 2 that were addressed, but not all 5. Under the second section where it says rubric requirements, I said the candidate analyzes the gap analysis to create a need assessment in all 5 target areas, which is kind of the same thing as the first one, to be proficient for the rubric. I gave you a level 4 on the next one because it says here under quality, you clearly use the best practices that are evidence, and they were research based. I could tell that you researched the best practices that you were able to show. And then it says this is clear as the intentions of what you were trying to do. I know what you're trying to do as far as address that. You can see the intentions of where you were going with that. Grammatically, very few errors. I see that you mentioned Tom Whitaker instead of Todd Whitaker in one of those paragraphs. So that might catch somebody because Todd Whitaker pretty profound in some of this stuff.
Yeah, it's probably a typo. We don't want to mess that up.
Yeah. I gave you a level 4 on the APA format, acceptable APA format, and then the resources, the references, you had all of them. They were properly, they were present properly. And then you mentioned, that's another thing I said, in that you mentioned Whitaker in your paper, but you didn't cite it at the bottom in your resources. So that'd be a third reference for you. So I says it was great background on your school and the community. However, I was trying to tie what was the relevance in using that for student motivation, because I think your PLC the whole time has been talking about motivating students. I remember one time you talked about changing or kind of adjusting what you were addressing.
Yeah, it's different now. I talked to. Oh, let me let you finish. Sorry, I do that a lot. Sorry.
And it says that I said I could see where you. I couldn't see where you was trying to tie that in. But no, I said I do see where you try to tie that into teacher retention and student enrollment. That was a good part in that, but I thought it was a lot of history, but not a lot of that connecting those 5 areas. And I put it looks a little bit more like a best practices gap versus achievement gaps instead of best practices and what they're actually doing at your school. If that makes any sense.
And I was telling Brittany, I spent all of that time like tallying all of the results and didn't include it in my paper. So what happened, I read the email that was sent by Mr. Neal, Dr. Neal, let me say doctor, Dr. Neal. And he was saying that we didn't have to use the exact same topic. And I felt like I would get more data if I kind of like switch it up just a little bit, because my PLC, I just didn't think that I could get enough data for the AAPTEL. So I spoke with my principal again, and all principals, and she actually was the one that I brought to my attention that the math scores, and I thought I included that, maybe I didn't, that the math scores have dropped tremendously in the last 2 years. And we were talking about why do we think that happened, and like the great school that, Haynes used to be a school of distinction. Like I would say number one in number one in the state, and a couple like maybe 10 years ago, and then actually was ranked on a national level. Like what happened to make this situation happen? And then that's why the history was so long. Because when you have a school that used to have all of these experienced teachers and pretty much no turnover, like you had to, if you got into that school, you just didn't leave. To now being separated and pretty much being in this temporary position because of the toxic soil and teachers, we can't keep teachers. And, it just affects having 3 principals in 3 years in 3 school location has affected the motivation, the teacher, everything in the school, even parents pulling their kids. And our school is a magnet school for highly academically gifted students, as well as the music program. So all of these things have affected, teachers as well as student achievement, because you've got a building full of substitutes now, and not a building full of highly qualified educators that we used to have. And when you get to trusting this one leader, and then the next year you have another leader, and then the next year you have another leader, and we're about to move again. We don't have a home.
Wow.
So that's why I gave this huge introduction, which I will go back now that you said that, because it does make sense, and talk about and include a lot of the things that we did speak about that I just didn't include in the paper, because I wasn't sure if I should include it in the paper. I thought it was like more of, this is what I'm talking about, is more of the action plan, like what are you gonna do? I thought this was more like, what have you noticed, or what is the background, or what are you doing to identify the need? But when I looked at you guys' paper, I could see, especially yours, and I'll start with yours, Antonio. I like how you have the research and then the actual. You know what I mean? I didn't think about it like that. And I gave you all 4s. And this is, whose is this? Yep. Nope, this is not you. This is what you did for me. Can y'all still see me when I get off the page?
Yeah.
That's cool. So peer review, Scott for Antonio. Oh, that's Brittany. Where's Antonio? Oh, I put y'all's your peer review in Blackboard. I responded to yours. So all 5 of your targets were clearly met and addressed. The first one. And the second one, for the rubric requirements, your draft was successfully unpacked. It just was. All of the tests were detailed. The quality, your narrative clearly describes the focus of your PLC and is easily aligned with the requirements that are detailed on the rubric. With the mechanics and error, I think the only thing I would say is just be sure to indent your subtitle, not to indent your subtitles, because they were kind of indented with your paragraph, and not to like overspace. I think it was kind of like a typo. It was like one of the paragraphs was like really far from the other one. It was like maybe you hit space like 3 times or something accidentally. Your organization is very organized. I just put met. And why did I put hanging indents for yours? That's an accident. So you can just take that off. I probably mixed it up because when I do y'all's peer review, I just switch the names and then change the comments. So
yeah,
I did the same thing.
I think that was actually for Brittany. So if you see that was actually for Brittany. And then for Brittany, let's go to B-Town. Brittany, same thing. All 5 areas were clearly addressed. You actually, I saw that you put it in bold so that, we can see which one is which. I would say your draft was successfully unpacked. Your narrative clearly describes the focus of your PLC and are aligned with the requirements that are detailed in the rubric. I would say, what in the world? Okay, that's an accident too. On yours, ignore where it says be sure not to indent your subtitles because that was actually for Antonio. I don't know what. That's an accident. So just that should be met. With your organization, I do think that you could have more subtitles because you only have the one.
Mm-hmm.
I think that you have that you only have one very long paragraph that could easily be divided into a couple more, especially when you put in bold which ones you're addressing. Maybe that could be its own subtitle.
Okay.
And then just hanging indents. So I gave you all 4s and then just a 3 on the organization part. And that's it. And like I said, where it says mechanics and grammar, you can just like fix that. That shouldn't be there. It should just say met. Somehow put one of yours on Antonio's and put Antonio's on yours accidentally. And I can actually I'll just resend. Actually, I'll resend this edited one.
I was going to ask you if you could do that.
Yeah, I'll do that because I don't want nobody to say that you didn't.
Hey, can y'all hear me clearly?
Yeah.
Okay, I just never use this little headset thing. Okay, go ahead.
All right, so I'll start with Antonio. I have his pulled up now. For the first one, I gave you all 4s. For the first one, I have your content was supported by the rubric. You analyzed the gap analysis to create a needs assessment in all 5 target areas. For the next one, your draft was successfully unpacked. You addressed all the requirements listed in the rubric. In your chart, you may want to go in where you had like empty spaces from where you didn't have data and it was basically like 0%. You may want to go in and put NA or, just 0, so it just won't be flat.
Okay.
Just add something there. The draft showed a clear vision of your understanding of best practices with the data that was suggested for your school and the needs of your school. I didn't notice any grammar issues or mechanic issues. The organization of your information was structured check the formatting, same thing like Jerica said. Your headings and your subheadings, as simple as backspacing or just pressing enter too many times, I think. And then all of your information was cited correctly. And I think you did a good job that the information that you have will be easy to transfer over to your action plan.
Okay, I appreciate that. Let me ask you guys a professional opinion then, real quick. I mentioned another, I remember I mentioned some different forms of data that I pulled. I talked about the teacher working conditions survey. Results from that is going to impact, the final action plan and why we're targeting these things. Do you think I need to add that data? Because I didn't. Actually, I was looking for it, and I finally found the email where I used it earlier in the year. Y'all think I need to add that?
I think that I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I was going to ask if I could use that data, but I didn't know if I would be able to access it or have access to it.
You should.
To what? What did you say? Which data are you asking about?
The teacher working condition survey.
Yeah, I mentioned the teacher working condition survey in my narrative, but I did not show the data that we use, because we use it in both school improvement teams or when it comes down to setting up your school improvement plan for the school year, you want to break that thing down and address the areas that need to be addressed. Which is what we did. And then when you're talking about teacher empowerment, with the teacher working condition survey, it talks about how teachers feel, if they feel supported, if they feel empowered.
And that makes a difference.
So
that would kill a lot of birds.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I mentioned that data, but I didn't put it on the appendix anywhere. I didn't put it in there. I was just so happy to be finished, but then I was like, dang, I didn't put it in there. So I wonder. So I was just asking y'all's opinion. Do you think I need to add that?
I think you should, and I think it'd be very helpful for one of your areas on your action plan too.
I think that I want to do that too, because really, that's what I based my checklist off of. Where I got the observed, not observed, where I get where I got the reason I even chose the 9 Marzano's.
Exactly.
That's the only reason I chose, because of that teacher working stuff. I just used that, and I'm like, this is, what would teachers be able to, what can they answer? What are some good questions? What should I be looking for? I use that to drive my checklist. I shouldn't say drive. I'm just my brain hurts.
You're right, because that's what you do with your school improvement team. You break that down, and you want to say, okay, hey, here's our lowest 5 areas or whatever, however many areas we're going to decide to address for the school year. And then, like, even when, I kind of brought that back up to some of my teachers in one of our staff meetings, is that, we're only addressing the things that you said. Like, this data comes from you as teachers. This is what you put down. So this is not something randomly that we want to do, something that administration say, hey, it'd be cute if we did this. The data says that you guys feel this way, so we're going to address it this way. So we're directly addressing, addressing the needs of the data.
So I would use that survey if I'm going to if I'm given access to, but which I would think would be public anyway. I would use that as like the teacher input part, like what are they saying, and then I would use my checklist that I have as like when I do my walkthroughs. You know what I mean? Right. So I feel like there should be 2 different ones. 2 different checklists.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I think that would. I think as long as you cite it and you tell where it came from, and that you can use it. I don't see why you couldn't use it.
Okay. Thank you.
And I think if you talk about it, you probably should. Since you talked about it in your narrative, I think you probably should.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. I tell you what, Brittany, I appreciate you telling me about. Hey, guys, hang on. I'm sorry. Hang on.
You see how busy he is? That's gonna be us. My principal sat down because
he's off though, isn't he?
He is gone. He's busy.
No, I mean he's off work.
Yeah, but he took them to swimming or something like that after school.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
I thought when you said that, I thought you were meaning like he took his own kids. I didn't know he took them.
I don't know. I don't know. I thought it was too. He was talking to parents and stuff though. So.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
You want me to go ahead and start yours?
Oh yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So for the first one, oh wait, that's his. Let me go back and find yours. All right, so for the first one, I gave you a 3. I said the content was very detailed that was inside of your paper.
Mm-hmm.
Only thing I said was you may want to include the actual data, which we already talked about, into one of your to an appendix, including like a chart, a pie chart, or whatever you want to use. And I didn't see all 5 best practices.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't clearly defined. But next one I gave you a 3 as well because I figured it was kind of like the same.
Mm-hmm.
Based on what the rubric says, it says you describe the data collection strategies along with your research findings, but make sure you go back and go back to ensure you have needs assessments for all 5 of the best practice areas. For the next one, or the rest of them, I gave you all 4s. The next one says the draft showed a clear vision of your understanding of best practices and the data suggested for your school and its needs. I've seen a couple mechanic errors that you can easily go in and fix, like the spelling. I noticed the Todd and Tom too.
Yeah.
All of your information was structured as directed in APA style guide, and all of your information was cited correctly. And that's it.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I mean, I looked at it and I was immediately like, oh, I need to do all 5.
Yeah.
I thought that if they were already addressing it, a couple of them, then I just needed to find the gap, like which one
was a problem.
Yeah, which one was the problem. So I only talked about where the gaps were.
Right.
So I guess I got kind of confused about what they mean by gaps. So if there are no gaps, or if there's already a plan in play, I still just need to include whatever the plan is.
Or based on your data, what was said? What did they say was happening?
Yeah.
Or the issue, that's all.
What did teachers say were happening, or what's actually happening?
Both. Well, for me, mine was more so what the teachers were saying.
Mm-hmm.
They seen or whatever, because that's the way my survey was developed. Versus yours, I think you did the walkthrough, so it's going to be what you've seen. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess if I'm using, mine is so different. It's still motivating students, but it's now motivating them. It's just like one thing, math, where at first it was just like motivating them to do well in all of their subjects and do as well academically all year as they do on the EOQs.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was focusing on a certain grade and a certain population of students. But now I'm looking at all of the students, all of the students, not just the highly academically gifted students, but all of the students. Even though they still are scoring well, they're still dropping. When you think of 80%, you're like, okay, they get 80%, but they used to get 99s and 97s. Like, they drop a lot.
Right.
So that's where I'm still talking about motivating students and differentiation, and you still have to get them where you need to be. But I'm kind of hearing or focusing on one topic now. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I guess I need to.
Something that you may want to add is trying to figure out what is before and what
I didn't hear you
now.
What'd you say? I'm sorry.
I said you may want to think about what the teachers were doing before or the 2 years prior and what they're doing now, and see if that makes a difference.
Well, the difference is those teachers aren't here anymore.
Yeah, right there. Oh, well, that's the reason why.
Yeah. I'm a new teacher there. I'm new there. All of the math teachers, the 8th grade HAG teacher has been there 3 years. I'm new, and the other teacher is his wife. So, and then all of the rest of the AG or HAG teachers, all the rest of them are new. So I can't say, hey, what did y'all do last year? Nobody did it last year. It's everybody is just walking in the dark. and it has affected the scores because people just up and left. Whenever they switch schools and put the school, they used to like a certain neighborhood, and they put that school smack dab in the middle of the worst neighborhood in Winston-Salem, South Side Winston-Salem, at a school that was condemned and shut down. It just, people were like, I'm not working here. I'm not coming here every day. I'm not so-and-so. It just like, and then the principal left, and people just come in. It's like they come in, they do work, they get the name, get the experience, and then they just leave.
So is it the students that changed as well?
The population changed and the students changed. So the populations changed, whereas if you were on an HAG or highly academically gifted team, you had 4 classes of highly academically gifted students. Well, now you have to teach at least 1 because the numbers have dropped. So like for me, for first, second, and third period, I have to teach highly academically gifted students. Then fourth quarter, I go inclusion. Like, and these kids are all on the same team. But if you are going from teaching 8th grade to going down and teaching pretty much 4th grade, it's a big shift, and you can't give them everything you got because your focus, the majority of your students is HAG. When you got teachers who specify in HAG or pretty much that's what they do, and you got teachers who teach EC, and you got kids in here, and you got parents who are not used to their children being around certain population of students. Now on the same team, so they don't want them to come to the school anymore.
That's,
you know what I mean?
That you can kind of consider adding to your action plan. Like for one, maybe switching up the schedules to make it so you're not burnt out.
Well, that's what they did. They did that because it was all 4. Like there was pretty much, if we're gonna be honest, that school was segregated.
10 minutes till end, free is over.
Okay. The school was segregated. You had all of the smart, rich, wealthy, pretty much majority Caucasian students on one team. And then you had what they call the neighborhood kids, which I don't like doing it. It makes me mad. Residential population who go to the school because they live in the district.
Don't have a choice, right?
They don't have a choice. On the other team with the behavior problems and the inclusion problems, and they get the teachers who you know what I mean? And the other team got the teachers who pretty much,
Hello?
Yeah.
So whenever they switch the schedule and say, you know what, we're going to relieve the other team, we're going to make it a little bit more diverse. We're going to switch it up, and every teacher will teach at least 1 inclusion class.
But that's a good thing, Jericho.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing too. But teachers left after Christmas. They said, I didn't sign up for this. I teach AG.
How can you be a teacher if you
Oh no, honey. They said I can't teach them.
Oh. So that means you can't teach. How about that? Like, what do you
mean? And that's what I said. People were like, look, first of all, when you in college, you're not learning to be an AG teacher. You get certified. You learn, most of your studying is how to get students up, bringing them up, teaching from the top down.
So they don't know how to differentiate.
Yeah, they don't know how to differentiate.
That's what the issue is.
They won't differentiate. And then when you go into the classrooms of the HAG teachers, you expect, you got the best students. I expect to see some magic when I come in here.
Well, see,
one of them, I walked out. I had to walk out because they were just sitting and getting sit, get. Even your HAG students over there on their computers or doing this and doing that, not engaged at all. You throw a worksheet at them, they do it. Now what?
But what I was going to say to when you were talking earlier, that first you was talking about the achievement gap, and that is going to create your achievement gap even when students are still passing the EOGs, but they're not passing as high as they used to. Because that's one of the things that we deal with, as well as teaching everybody. So what we do, and when I say we, I'm talking about our district. The principal, we're one county high school, and what our principal does is he tries to send every teacher he can to AIG training or AIG training. Every year he maybe sends 4 or 5 more. And his belief is that the strategies that you learn, or the strategies that you learn, should drive good instruction for all students. It should teach you how to motivate all students. So it shouldn't be a case to where you have a teacher that says, I can teach AIG students, but I cannot reach these EC students. That's something that you don't want. And that's, as a leader, that's where those tough conversations are going to come in. When you're talking about empowering and developing your teachers, the issue is going to be, okay, can you teach all kids? I have a teacher in my building like that now. She's a math teacher, and she has no issues with her AIG kids. She has 2 AIG classes and 2 regulars. And even her low-level classes are not as low as what's across the hall from her, but she makes excuses for them. And then we set aside time for her to start doing pull-out remediation during their elective period, and she's pulling out the highest kids in the class. I'm like, so she's not even pulling out the ones who need the help. She's pulling out the level of kids that's going to make level 5s anyway and working with them. So, that's one thing it's a tough conversation to have with teachers. Like, why are you really doing this? And one thing that I would always say to teachers is, I don't want anybody in the building who does not believe that every kid can learn. Every child can learn. And if you don't believe that, then you're doing a disservice to the school.
Not only do they think every kid can't learn, but they think that you can't grow a kid who's already at the top. Look, if you got a 99, they can get 100, and that little scale that changes, because if you get a 99 in 5th grade, it's different than a 99 in 6th grade.
That's correct.
It's totally different. So that's one of the things the new principal struggles with. We started the school year with one principal. She left and went to another school. A new principal comes in, and I think the staff was kind of heartbroken because they thought that the other teacher, she made a lot of promises to them, but we got a new principal in here that's just like that. She's like, all of y'all, you teach all of these kids. If I'm in HAG class, it should look the same. Right. You should be giving them everything that you got, just like you give the other, and they are resisting her. And it's hard for me to watch too, because I'm going around with her and as well as the assistant principals, and they resist. And that's why I thought it was important to include that information in the gap analysis. A lot of them is because they just won't. Not that there's really a need. It's just like this ego thing where you guys are used to running the school, but now you got a principal in here who's not going to allow you to treat all of these students like that. They're not going to allow you to do it.
Right.
So, but that's all. I think that I gotta do some more writing, do some more adding. But I just want to make sure that when I'm typing, I'm not going into like the action plan. You know what I mean?
That's what I felt like too.
Yeah, I felt like I was starting to talk about, okay, what we gonna do, instead of like.
Back from AAPTEL, that's what we did in AAPTEL too.
Yeah.
It was like we kept touching on it. We didn't really say everything, but go back and look and see if y'all noticed the same thing. It was like that's what we were doing. It's kind of everything was repetitive.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely gonna. Can you tell me before we go? It's 2 minutes and some seconds left.
It is 2 minutes.
Is there like a public place to get the information, the teacher working survey results, or do I have to request that information?
Ask your principal. Ask your principal for a teacher working condition survey. That person should have it. And also, I think it would help your paper if you got with your testing and accountability person.
She broke both ankles. She don't exist. We don't have that or a data manager anymore.
What about your CF?
Okay,
Sometimes CFs have access to that stuff.
Right.
Your CF, your curriculum facilitator.
Yeah, that's what I meant. She's the same person.
Well, okay, I'm talking about your county, you should have a district. I don't know how your school works. Get your principal's permissions first. But I just know in my district, I just know these people.
Okay.
Different committees or PLCs I've been on. but they would also have your achievement data broken down by socioeconomics and your subgroup data. You want the way you're writing your paper for test scores and all those changes, you could get a lot of good data from test score, your subgroup breakdowns. We're at less than a minute, so we could stop the recording and I could just tell you this stuff.
Okay.
Okay, so we good with stopping the recording?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, if you could hit that stop recording for me.
Hey, family.